Thank you so much, and welcome to the Swazi Cultural Village. I'm going to make a relatively brief presentation on culture. Swazi culture is very intricate, so I can talk about it for the whole day. So I know you don't have the whole day. But essentially, when we talk about Swazi culture, we're basically talking about the total Swazi way of life. Our traditional lifestyle, our arts, our music, our architecture, everything that relates to our lifestyle is part of our culture. And as you know, the Swazi is derived from the Nguni, which comprise the Zulu, the Xhosa, and the Swazi. And then the other ethnic groups are the Tsongas and so forth and so on. And essentially, the Swazis are made up of the Nguni largely, which is about 85%, and then the Tsonga and the Tonga, which is just about 15%. But all of those have since integrated to become Swazi, and they speak the Swazi language exclusively. And then we speak English for those that have been to kindergarten. So that's basically what Swazis are. But then, as a Swazi, when you come to a homestead like this, the first thing that you do when you get to the entrance is announce yourself, because you don't just walk into a homestead. You announce yourself, and then the girls whose hut is next to the entrance are the people who welcome you. And the reason they welcome strangers is so that in the event that the strangers are here to attack, the girls can sneak around and tell the boys whose heart is this side that there is an imminent attack, and then the boys will go out and address that. So basically, when you talk about the Swazi, you are talking about this, and the essential element of Swaziness and what gives us identity is the traditional political structure of the Swazi. At the level of the nation, the king is the father of the nation, and the Indlovukazi, which is the queen, is the mother of the nation. And that devolves down to family. At the level of family, the headman is regarded as the principal person in the home. So the king is responsible for all of the political issues in Swaziland, particularly the traditional line of politics, and the queen mother is the spiritual leader of the Swazi nation. Equally, when it comes to a homestead, the headman is the central person in the home, and the wife to the headman is the spiritual leader. So at the level of the homestead, whenever there are issues, it is not the headman who deals with the issues, but the headman listens to the issues and then tells the mother, and it is the mother who does the engagement with various people in trying to sort out the issues. So this setup depicts exactly that at the level of the home. So when you come through the home, you have the hut there, which is the girl's hut, and each of these units here have a significance in terms of what is expected of each of the people who reside in the home. But just behind you is the young boy's hut. This guy is supposed to be the man who is just been married. He used to live next to the kraal, because each of the people in the family have responsibilities. The boys are always looking after cattle, and they help the father in putting up the cattle, the cattle buyer, and then they also are responsible for the fences around the home. And then the girls are also responsible for building up the reed fences, and they also help the mother in cooking. So these are the responsibilities that you grow up with. When you are a girl, you are expected that you will cook, and you will end up cooking for your husband. And equally for the man, for the young boy, he has to grow and be trained in that area, so that by the time he is old, he is able to provide for his wife and family because of the values that were inculcated to him while he was still young. So this is basically what happens to the Swazi people. On the right is the hut where the young boys live, because every young person, as soon as he is 6 years old, he leaves the parental hut and stay with the boys. And this is where the boys are educated on a number of elements, including how he should carry himself and so forth and so on. And the same happens with the girls who reside in that hut, and as they grow, they go out to marry, and the person who is betrothed pay lobola to them. So basically this is what happens here. And then one of the major elements is the hut. The hut that's usually there. Unfortunately, we had a case of fire here, so the big hut got burnt down. But essentially the hut that's usually there, it's called the Great Hut, and it is often right across the cattle byre. So whatever happens at the level of the hut is somehow spiritually communicated to the cattle byre, because the cattle byre is very important. Important in terms of ritual significance, because this is where a lot of rituals in Swazi culture are performed. When there is a death, it is reported in the cattle byre. When a new wife is coming into the family, it is reported in the cattle byre. And we also store some grains in the cattle byre so that in the event of a fire here, the grains do not burn. So the cattle byre is very important in terms of Swazi, and because our religion as Swazi people is greatly related to ancestors. Not that we worship ancestors, but we relate very closely to ancestors because we believe that they mediate between us and God. So whenever we have to talk to God, we don't pray directly to God, but pray through the ancestors, because we believe that they are not dead, they are alive, but in another world. So they play a lot of significance. And then as you grow up, you begin to participate in national events. We have a number of national events which form part of your growing up as a young Swazi person. If you're a girl, you have to go through the ritual of umqwasho. The ritual of umqwasho is some way of keeping the nobility of the girls. So the girls are protected from engaging in certain acts before they are reasonably old to engage in those acts by being part of a regiment, and that regiment is grown in terms of being taught the values of Swaziness, being taught how to behave, being taught how to interact with people, and to ensure that they keep their virginity until they are ready for marriage. But that umqwasho event has since translated to what we call now the reed dance. The reed dance has become a bigger event. It still celebrates the nobility of the girl. It is about the girl child, but they also go to cut reeds. And when they cut the reeds, they bring them to the Queen Mother's residence so that they can build reed fences around the Queen Mother's home. That's the responsibility of the girls. And the significance of that is that if a girl has a child, that is here, she has a child before marriage, there is no way that she can go cut the reed. So this is why it is an interesting culture for all of us, because it helps protect the girls. And then the boys also have their own ceremony. It's called Lusegwane. And the Lusegwane is also a ceremony that is geared towards keeping the boys virgin. They go to cut the Lusegwane, and in the event you go and cut the Lusegwane, yet you are already doing stuff, the trees just, wait. So you don't do that as long as you are a young man. So the young men and the young girls aspire to participate in these ceremonies because the Queen Mother and the King are central to these ceremonies. So it is the girls enjoy being part of that. And this is one of the incentives. They keep their nobility before they get married. We also have Ingwala, which is a national ceremony, and the Ingwala is usually called the first fruit ceremony. It is deliberately called the first fruit ceremony because the Dlaminis are not supposed to taste any fruit from any tree, and particularly mealies, before the king has had a bite of that. So until the king has a bite of that, all of the Dlaminis don't have a bite of this. It used to be all of the Swazis, but as things evolved, some of these people who were eager to have a bite of these mealies excused themselves from that. But the Dlaminis, who may be prime ministers of the land, adhere to that culture. So every time there is the Ingwala ceremony, you go, everyone in the country comes together, especially the men. They sing, they alulate, and they also have some ritual performances, which ritual performances also fortify kingship, because this country is a kingdom. So one of the things that happen as well there is that on the fourth day, they come together, they dance together and perform other rituals which are of significance to the country. And the only time the Ingwala happens is when there is a king in the country. When there is no king, there is no Ingwala. And when you sing the songs that are sung at Ingwala out of season, that is any time like here, then you have committed treason. So I would be singing this song for you. Unfortunately, I don't want to be locked up, so I'm not going to sing. So that is what happens in terms of ceremonies. And then the headmen are significant in the sense that they, apart from running their own families, but they are also part of the king's regiment. The king can announce at any time an invitation that will gather the men around, and all of the men will go to any of the residencies from where they will be assigned national duties. And one of the national duties is usually cultivating the king's fields and harvesting the king's fields. We do so because we want to sustain kingship, and participating in those activities is pride to all of the Swazi people. The same is true for the reed dance. All of the women who participate, all of the girls who participate in the reed dance are part of what become the pride of the nation. We also have what we call the Maganu ceremony. Women harvest maganus, marula fruits, and then they do a lot, or they brew some beer that is taken to two of the royal residencies. And when they do so, we call it the culture of wetfula, which is bringing some food and some fruit to royalty. And again, there is usually a lot of dancing and a lot of singing and enjoyment, wherein we give our king some presents. So that's part of our culture. We are united, we are homogeneous, we are related in a sense because of our collective engagement in the issues of national importance, whether they are of social significance or economic significance. And then at the level of the home, the headman is also very, very central, because he is the one who is the heir apparent to the father, and before the father is late, there is no heir in terms of Swazi culture. And quite often, there is no way that you can inherit from your father while he is still alive. And girls have no inheritance in Swazi culture. They are only useful in bringing us lobola. So I'm waiting for lobola myself from the girls, nothing more. But as things evolve, girls have become more important. But what is even more important is that productivity in a marriage is emphasized in Swazi culture. If a Swazi man marries a woman who does not bear children, he has a right to also take a sister to the woman so that she can bear children on behalf of her sister. Because without children, you are not complete at the level of the homestead, because all the homesteads that we build are called after the women. So if I have a wife and my wife lives in this homestead, that homestead is called by the woman. So in other words, they say Gugala, which means the woman's maiden surname is used in naming and referring to the homestead. So if she does not have children, she does not have that right. This is why she brings a sister to bear her children. But the goodness of this culture is that it is fair to both men and women, because if it happens that I am the one who does not bear children, then the great-grandmother sneaks to my brother and tells her that each time I have gone to the mines in Johannesburg, She must sneak into my wife's hut and do the honors. The beauty about that is that if we are blood brothers, then the children are most likely going to look like my brother. So he will never get to know that it is not his children but his brother's children. And the man who does that is sworn to secrecy. The beauty about that is that even in death, when the husband dies, the woman is not encouraged to leave the homestead. Instead, she is encouraged to be united with the brother to the dead husband so that they keep the family going. So in that way, there are no orphans in Swaziland because they are taken care of by the people within the home. So that was the beauty of the culture. So the headman is very, very important here. And one of the things that happen is that once the headman is grown up and he has a wife, he builds 3 units. The one unit, as you can see from this, is a unit where beer is brewed. Because a Swazi homestead has to have a beer hut. And when you drive around in certain times, you can see white flags flying from traditional homes. Those white flags are just indicators that there is beer that is brewed in that homestead, and you can walk in and have a taste of it. So you have a beer hut, and then next to the beer hut, you have a cooking hut. And you can differentiate between these huts by the reed fences in front of them. When there are these horizontal lines and there are 4 of them, then that is a sleeping hut. When there are 3 of these horizontal lines, then it means that's just a cooking hut. And then the hut behind does not have any reed fences. This too has a significance in our culture. And the significance is that when you see these fences, you can't walk in, even if you have tried to announce yourself as they've been doing, and nobody attends to you. When you walk into the home and you look at these horizontal lines, you know that this is a sleeping hut, so you don't walk in. And you go to the other hut, it has 3 of the horizontal lines on the fences, you don't walk in there as well. But when you go to the beer hut where there are no fences, you can just walk in there and try to find out who is there. And the good thing about that is that when you are hungry, or if you are hungry, you will help yourself to the beer without anybody putting you to shame. So that's basically what happens. And then once you have these 3 units, the headman just has a hut that is separate from the units. This is because the headman usually has more than one wife, because polygamy in Swaziland is part of our culture. So the husband does not usually belong in any one of the wives he takes. He sleeps in his own hut and he invites the women to come to the hut for their share of the spoils. So that's exactly what happens. And in the event that he has to visit one of the women, the woman who has been visited is usually referred to as very lucky and called Insandvogati in Siswati, the one who is most loved. So right in front of me is a hut which is usually used when there is an illness in the family. When there is an illness in the family, we don't just bring a traditional healer or a traditional doctor to do the honors in any of the huts. He has to stay here, excluded from the rest of the family, and those that have to be helped have to come here. So if the headman of the family is a traditional healer, he does all of that himself. But if he is not, he invites someone from outside who stays in here, and then whatever he has come to do will be performed here. So one of the things that happens is that the traditional healer usually comes to perform rituals. For instance, in Swazi culture, when it is becoming winter, the children are gathered together, and then some ritual is performed so that the children do not suffer any disease during winter. And again, when it is summer, the children are brought together and a ritual is performed so that they don't suffer any disease during summer. And all of the things you call sinuses and etc. don't happen to Swazi children, never used to happen to Swazi children because of that. And the plants that are usually planted around this hut are plants that are considered to be of medicinal value, so that they are used at any given time as part of the medicines for helping the family in whatever way they are helped. So what happens here is that in Swazi culture we have what we call a herbalist. And a herbalist is somebody who starts as an apprentice to a herbalist. This person is initiated into the use of these different medicines from a variety of trees. So he has scientific knowledge of the value of the trees, and he ends up knowing how to use them for medicinal purposes. And then we also have the fortune teller. The fortune teller does not have to be told. She gets to appreciate the use of these medicines through a trance. He has a trance, and the spirits tell him or her what the use of this plant is and where she can find this plant, and she goes out to get that plant. And this person is only initiated, and the initiation can happen anywhere. Usually it can be in a far away place where this traditional healer, the fortune teller in this case, can be kept underwater for over 6 months, and during that period she is given the powers to perform the fortune telling. And the fortune teller can tell you your fortunes, can tell you your misfortunes, can tell you what will happen to you in the future. So some of us Swazis know when we are going to die because of the same. And we know when we are going to have cars, we know when we are going to marry and what kind of lady we are going to marry, because the fortune tellers are responsible for such things. But as things have evolved, people started questioning the fortune teller and probably expecting that things happen before their time, and then they take the fortune teller to court about this. So fortune tellers now don't tell you about your future unless you agree that you will be held to secrecy about what you are being told. So over and above that, we then have these units, 3 other units as well. This homestead represents a headman who has 2 wives. So we have the 3 units this side, we also have the 3 units this side, which are for sleeping, brewing beer, and cooking. And then again we have that. And as the homestead gets developed and the other children take wives, the homestead develops in 3. And then one of the things that happen in terms of Swazi culture is that the younger son is not allowed to leave the homestead, because the homestead has to be kept in perpetuity. So if the younger son has to leave, then it means nobody will take over from the headman, from that current headman. And equally, the older son does not leave, because the older son is usually responsible for the inheritance. When the headman dies, he has to, the older son has to take over. He becomes responsible for the cattle, he becomes responsible for his sisters, and he becomes responsible for the running of the home. So it is very important that they also remain in the family. One of the beauties of our Swazi culture is the architecture as well. You know, the architecture derives from a functional standpoint. The reason it is like that is because when water drops on these huts, it is not contained. It doesn't pool anywhere. It just goes down. So that means the grasses can last you for over 10 years. And as you can see from that one, the way that the poles are weaved is such that no spear can penetrate through that. And the reason this is done is because these huts used to be built when there were wars around. And this is why even the door has to be this height, and round, so that whoever comes through the door has to show face first before the rest of the body comes through. And when you show face, the people who are inside can do anything to you, including to capture you. So basically, this is what Swazi culture is about, and I hope you have been educated. Thank you.
Thanks.
So any question?
Yes. Do you also have circumcision for the boys, like in many other cultures?
No, we don't.
Not in Swaziland?
Not in Swaziland.
Okay.
Not in Swaziland. But what we do is that, as you can see, that the boy's hut is next to the kraal. There is usually an enclosure very close to the boy's hut, where every evening, after the boys have closed in the kettle, they come together and they are taught on the values of being a man. So that's part of their initiation, which is a process that takes them through to the period when they go out and marry. Yes.
But there's no circumcision.
No, not circumcision. Yeah, we have said the reason the girl's hut is at the entrance, it's because even when there is war, women and girls are not affected. So whenever somebody comes through, he is either welcomed by the girls or he is reported to the homestead by the girls. So that's the significance.
If a father has two daughters,
Yes.
now you marry the first daughter and you have children, that's fine. But now the second daughter marries Lucy and they don't have children. He can't go and take your wife, can he?
No, but he can take my wife's children.
He can take your wife's children.
Yeah, one of my wife's children can be taken, and it's called intlandi, which is a fish in English.
So you can go
Lucky
fishing.
fish.
Any other question?
What is it?
Many people don't live in these type of homesteads anymore. They live in brick and mortar ones. So do they carry out the same sort of layout?
Place to live in.
Well, those that live in houses made of brick and mortar, they don't necessarily follow the same layout. But the cultural values are more or less similar. So if you can live a homestead that is built in this fashion and then live in a homestead that is built in a modern way, your interactions will be more or less similar to the interactions of the person who lives here.
Good.
I want to know about the traditional clothing that you're wearing.
Sorry?
I want to know about the traditional clothing that you are wearing.
You know,
Made in China.
before our current king, this country was run by King Sobhuza II for almost 60 years. And one of the things he said, which has remained his legacy, is that when you play a piano, you play the black and the white buttons so that you have beautiful music. And he extended that metaphor to say, if we are as a Swazi nation, we should be able to take that which is good from the world and reject that which is bad, and marry that which is good with that which is good from our Swazi culture. That's exactly what we are doing, and this is exactly why I'm
Well done. But there is something like
Could you perhaps just quickly tell us about courtship and marriage? Because you also follow...
Oh, okay. You know, when
Hey guys, come on!
Excuse me.
when a young man gets old enough, he usually starts looking for a wife. And what usually happens is that wherever you look for the wife, you identify her, and then you tell the boys that you are the boys that are your equal, and then together you go to where this woman is. You waylay her as she goes to fetch water from the river. And once you see her there, you don't just go to her and chat to her in a certain way, but to do it in praise singing fashion.
Oh!
Like gekela geken from bitonga tin from bitiam gekel. You know, it is a beautiful way of announcing your interest to the girl. And then what usually happens is that the other girls look at you to see if you are good enough for their friend or their sister. And then they discuss that over months while you continuously go to her to express your feelings. And then once the lady has decided that she is in love with you, she tells her group of friends, and they do some beadwork. And when you meet, she does not say anything, but she just takes out that beadwork and put it around your neck. And then you know that this lady has now fallen in love. And then you burst into song once again. So once that has happened, then they arrange a time. You arrange for a time when the lady, in company of her friends or sisters, will come to your place. And when she comes to your place, she is assigned to a specific hut, and not sleep with you. This is where your parents will also go to see her and have a view of whether or not she qualifies to be a makoti of the family. Once she is qualified, she is allowed to go back home, but she is given very good treatment while she is here. She goes back home and gets invited again. When she gets invited again, the young man's family now gets all the ladies together, gets most of the ladies from the area together, and those ladies sleep in one hut. Then when it's 4 o'clock in the morning, they go out to the hut where the lady is and tell her that she must come out because she is being married today. So when she comes out, she is taken to the kraal, where she is told all sorts of hurtful things so that she can cry. Because if she does not cry while she is here, then they can predict that she will make a bad wife because she has no feeling. So she gets to the kraal, and a lot of things get said to her, others telling her about the difficulties of marriage, the expectations of the family that she is getting married to, and so forth and so on. And once she has done that, she has cried enough, they take her out of there and they take red ochre. They sit her down and take red ochre and smear and get an old woman to smear the red ochre on her face. And once that red ochre is smeared, it is like a ring. So there will be no divorce, and she will forever belong in the family. Up till today, that still happens, and even today, traditional marriage certificates are made in these offices, in these modern government offices, and the lady who smears the ochre becomes witness to that marriage. So this is how marriage happens.
Fantastic.
Fantastic method.
The whole process of a boy going to the girl or the group and then coming back, where does lobola fit into this?
Okay, in our tradition, you don't lobola a lady, you lobola a wife. So the marriage has to take place, which manifests through the smearing of the red ochre, and then once that has happened, lobola is arranged. Soon after lobola is arranged, then the marriage ceremony takes place.
It starts a couple of days.
It starts on Friday and ends on a Sunday.
Nice.
And 2 cows are killed during the ceremony.
And each wife a mother-in-law.
Yes.
Yes. Shame.
That's for being polygamous.
That's the price you pay.
Lots of money.
That's the price you pay. No, we don't pay any price.
That's when you cry.
3 mothers-in-law.
And then from here we are going to go to the arena where there will be some dancing, traditional dancing, and it is about to start now. So you can move up.